You there. Yes, you sitting there in your car or at home or walking on the sidewalk or feeding baby goats. You are now currently one of the most powerful super beings on Earth. And why is that, you may be asking? Well, because you're listening to the latest episode of Spec Tales, of course. And we are your humble super serum masterminds, Jake and the bearded professor himself, Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
Man, super serum making it is not easy. You know that by now. But wouldn't that be so cool, man? You could just take a serum and become a superhero. How many superheroes would we have?
Oh, thousands. Well, just the richest people in the world, probably. So you and I might be out, but there would be some out there.
Yeah, I'd probably make some bootleg version of it, like moonshine.
Where just like half your body is super, the other half looks like me.
Yeah, just like poke out of the corner just with your super half and say, "Hey, you there? Stop what you're doing."
You're just leaning around the building. If this is your first time joining us for Spec Tales, thank you for giving us a listen. Spec Tales is a comic book podcast that asks collectors and creators, what's your grail tale? Each week, we explore news stories about the comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
This week, super spectators, you're in for a DC delight. It doesn't happen very often on this show, Jesus, but there is a lot of DC going on in this episode.
Yep. Having Josh Trujillo, the writer of DC's new Blue Beetle Graduation Day, as a guest will have that kind of effect.
So not only was Josh one hell of a lot of fun to talk to, but he also spilled the tea on a few things in this week's episode too. So maybe some speculation people should get their notepads out for, Jesus?
Yeah, man. I mean, this is one of those episodes that's definitely going to pay off for our speculation listeners, but also just for DC fans in general, fans of Blue Beetle, and fans of just, some comic book talk.
Oh, he gets into everything. We also get into video games as well, which is something that we don't do a lot of on this.
But there's a lot of overlap, right? I mean, I grew up playing Ninja Turtles and Maximum Carnage on the Super NES. So yeah, a lot of overlap.
On the Super NES. Well, enough with all the teasing. Let's get into this. So stop acting like it was a coincidence in grade school when Chili Dog Day came right after Sloppy Joe Day, and always shoot the messenger. This is episode 69. Nice.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spec Tales, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to all you spectators out there. And welcome back to another episode of Spec Tales. This week, Jesus and I are joined by a writer whose work spans genres, audiences, publishers, and everywhere in between. He's penned some of the most iconic characters like Superman, Wonder Woman, and even Rick Sanchez. His latest and greatest effort is writing on the new-to-shelf series Blue Beetle Graduation Day. Clearly, I am talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Trujillo. Josh, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
I tried hard on that last name. Did I mess that up? I think I messed it up.
It's Trujillo is how I've always learned to say it. Some people, really throw in the accent on it or not, but I'll answer to everything. Trujillo is usually the one that I get the most.
This is amazing. This is the best day of my life. Can you say it again, Jake? Please.
Nope, it was a one and done. I tried as hard as I could, and I still messed up.
I'm so excited to have Josh here. Josh Trujillo here. Very excited to have him on. So much stuff that I want to talk to him about, to pick his brain. I'm just giddy. So thank you, Josh, for joining us. I'm really excited.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm so stoked to talk Blue Beetle and just comics in general.
Awesome. Well, like I said, we're all excited. Blue Beetle graduation day is kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit when we get going. But before we really jump into that part, I'd love to know a little bit more about, Josh, your background. And for some of our listeners who maybe don't know as much of your work, how did you sort of get started into comics?
Yeah. Comics is kind of a short version. Comics is kind of a thing I've always wanted to do. Even when I was a little kid, I was like tracing over Garfield comics or like rearranging the panels to make my own. So like I've always had the bug. But I had a couple internships in my early 20s, like at comic book publishers, and I learned a little bit about how to make comics. What I learned quickly though is like if you want to make comics, you have to make comics. It seems pretty straightforward, but you have to pay artists, you have to write scripts, and you have to you print the dang things. So I self-published for a while, and I got the attention of Boom, who was doing these Adventure Time comics. So I ended up doing 3 graphic novels for them. This was probably back in 2016, around thereabouts. And it's kind of just been like boom, boom, boom from there. I think I got work from DC, I think right before Marvel started calling. And my day job is actually in video games. So I write for games like I worked at Telltale Games. I worked on WB Multiverses a little bit. I worked on, there's a big WB title that's not announced yet that's coming out that I worked on, and just kind of this and that. So honestly, like I'm so blessed to like get to do what I get to do, because like it's the only thing I know how to do.
Well, I'm glad it's working out for you, but it's also working out for us because we get a lot of awesome content and comic books and games. And I also saw on your website that you have a unannounced Netflix thing going on too, which I'm really kind of interested in, obviously. But and also unannounced game that you're talking about that's pretty big. So I just think, like, I guess one quick question I have for you on that stuff is, how hard is it for you not to say anything about these really cool things that you want to share with the world?
That's the real question, right? It's like, how do you keep your mouth shut? And like, that's really, really hard, especially for like, for comics, like it's a little, you have friends who work in comics, you can kind of slip whatever. You're like, oh yeah, Robin's getting a new haircut next month. Like that's the hot gossip or whatever it is. And like in video games, they make you sign these like ironclad non-disclosure agreements. So like, I'm afraid to say anything like to anyone about it. They're like, what games are you working on? And I literally, I'll tell you in 4 years.
To me, that is nuts. Like
it's insane.
Is it that cutthroat in that industry for new games? It really is.
It seems that way. Like I've had people who have like violated their NDA and they've like lost their jobs from that, or just like been like strongly disciplined. Cause like when these things get leaked, like it really sends the whole production into like a tailspin. Cause like every other publisher can like look over their shoulder now and be like, oh, your menus look like that, or like that's how you do combos, or like whatever it is. Like it's all like top secret because these games are like $100 million projects now.
And I'm sitting here like, I don't even know what I do with the information. Like you could be sitting here telling me like, oh, I'm on the next Skyrim, which again, I have no idea. I'm on the next Skyrim game. And I'd be like, good for you, dude. That's cool. I didn't know they were making another one. And that's how, like, I don't know what I do with that, but obviously I'm not your competition. So.
No, keeping my mouth shut. That's the work.
Yeah. And the other thing about that too is your people around you, whether it's family, friends, I kind of think like you feel like Tommy from Martin, like you ain't got no job. What do you mean you'll tell me in 4 years? Like, like just tell me what you're working on now. But yeah, so that's definitely something that's good. It's what is it? Silver lining, I guess. You in 4 years you get to show all the work that you've been doing, and we all get to enjoy it. So.
Yeah, comics is a lot quicker than that. That's what I like about comics is like it's out the same year I'm actually working on it. But yeah, games is just like it's forever.
So speaking of NDAs and speaking of warnings and things like that, we should probably give a little bit of a spoiler warning for everybody listening out there. We are going to be talking about mild spoilers for Blue Beetle graduation day. Is that fair enough? Or we're going to go into this thing, right?
Let's do it.
Yes. So if you haven't read it yet, which you couldn't have read it yet because it is out the day you're listening to this, unless it came out yesterday or unless you read it yesterday, digitally or you got it. But if you haven't, please just be aware, maybe listen to this afterwards or spoil it for yourself and go read the book anyway.
Hold on. And before you leave, right, because they're going to pause it or say, I'll come back, pick it up. Pick up the book at your LCS.
Why would they pause it if they weren't going to pick the book up?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll say I'll get to it later. Maybe they'll say, I'm waiting for a trade. No, pick up the book.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Pick up the book. But let's roll into our first segment talking about Blue Beetle graduation day.
Recent pickups.
All right, the recent pickup segment. And as I just said, we're going to be talking about Blue Beetle graduation day. Josh, you got to work on this project along with Adrian Gutierrez.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so this book is going to be released in stores Tuesday, November 29th. So if you're listening to this episode, that would have been yesterday. Unless you're listening to this on a subsequent day that wasn't the release date, it's okay. Thanks for still listening. But so let's talk about this. How did this project come about and how did you get attached to it?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming for Blue Beetle. So let's see. I did a book for Boom years ago called Dodge City, and it was kind of like a sports anime inspired teen book. And from there, I got DC's attention. There was an editor over there who was really into the character. And he's like, you are the Blue Beetle guy. Like, I can just see it in your writing. And I was like, okay, amazing. So like, the universes change. We have line events, publishing change. So like, we just couldn't find the right time to do Blue Beetle. And then DC last year had this round robin competition that was kind of like a bracket style elimination tournament.
Yep.
So it was all these creators and their pitches kind of going up against each other, and the fans voted on what they wanted to see. I got to the final four, but Robins won out. Surprise, surprise! A book about the Batman book beat out Swamp Thing.
Yeah, we
or whatever.
Steely about it actually a little bit.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I don't blame the Robins. Stephanie Brown's my Robin, but we were super bummed about that because we thought we had gotten like really close. We even got to do preview pages, and then like a year later, I get a call from my editor Andrew Marino, and he's really been championing the character in the book for such a long time, and he's like, "We're in. We want to do 6 issues. We're gonna follow your pitch, and you and Adrian are gonna come back and do it." So like that was like a huge thrill because like sometimes like editors are like, oh yeah, I really want you to write like I don't even know what, like Clifford the Big Red Dog, and I'm like, oh yeah, and then it'll take them years to get back to me, or they never get back to me, and it's like, oh, I guess I don't know what happened,
They got interested in something else.
Yeah, something else caught their attention.
So, are you allowed to tell? Like, how long ago did you initially pitch?
I wrote my first outlines for Blue Beetle back in 2018, maybe.
Okay.
So it's been a long time.
It's been quite a while. Yeah.
The book is nothing like my original pitches for the character. Nothing like that. It's definitely gone through like a lot of metamorphosis, but I'm really happy with where we landed. And honestly, like coming out of was it Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, I think is the big event right now. Kind of spinning out of that is like a huge opportunity because like Blue Beetle Jaime came out of the Infinite Crisis. And so he's always kind of got this tie to these crisis events. So that was like a really good opportunity to kind of reintroduce him to the world.
Well, it's interesting you say that about reintroducing him because, I've talked to Jake about this and I've, made mention before that he's in my household, at least one of our favorite characters. I have a 13-year-old son who's his actual favorite character. But then also, right, there's going to be a movie, right, about Blue Beetle coming out.
Yeah, with the Cobra Kai guy, Zolo. I'm so excited for this. Have you seen the leaked images and stuff, like the costume and everything? Like,
yes,
it looks exactly like the comic. It looks exactly like the Coley Hamner design.
And so that's what I'm saying. So it's like you mentioned, it's a perfect time to reintroduce Jaime to the masses, right? Like to in not only comic book form, but also because the movie's coming out. So, I couldn't be more thrilled to have this new 6-issue series on the shelves, and I'm so glad that I was able to read it. And I'm going to continue to read it. But like you mentioned, it just feels like perfect timing.
Yeah, no, I think like the stars lined up really well for us, and we're like, that's a lot of pressure too. Like this is going to be the book that's out in time for the movie, and like new readers are going to come to it. So like, it's kind of a balance to like get it right, right? We have like people like you and I who've probably been reading Blue Beetle comics on and off for like 15 years. I think the character's been around, but we're going to have a lot of people who've never read a comic before coming in and wanting to learn about him. So like, hopefully, we did a good job of like reintroducing Jaime.
Yeah, that's another question I had for you. And, I've had this question. We just had somebody on from the Psychoverse, the Incal, and that character's been around, or that, universe has
that
been
world.
for like 40 years. But the Blue Beetle has been around for 80 years, right? And there's three Blue Beetles, right? So it's a mantle. It passes and passes on. And Jaime is a third Blue Beetle, right? So I always have to ask, and you mentioned a little bit, you talked, but how is there pressure? Is there like a lot of pressure to get it right? Do you see that whenever you're writing, or like what do you do to prepare yourself to write something like that
Oh
character?
gosh, I just stress out honestly and pace around my apartment. But it is a lot of pressure because like he's one of my favorite characters, right? So like I want to get him right, I want to get his voice right, and also like I was talking to a friend about this. It's like you want to do the campsite rule when you're writing these characters. You want to leave them off in like a better place than kind of where they started. And like I think some writers miss the memo on that, but I'm trying really hard to like. We're doing a new status quo for Jaime. He's graduating from high school. He's moving into a new part of his life, and like I hope people dig it because this is the brand new era. This is what he's going to be up to for the next 6 issues.
And I actually, to piggyback off of Jesus's question there, I was going to ask, yes, there's a lot of history, and I am assuming that you feel pressure with regards to what, how to bring people into this new series that you're doing here. But just realistically, how much fun is it to take your favorite character and say, I get to build a whole new world with them?
Oh my gosh, it is a thrill because you're like, you're a kid and you're just like smashing action figures against each other, right? And so you get to do that on like this big scale, and then it's real, whatever that means. It's such a thrill, and like you getting to write even like a supporting cast, like his little sister Milagro or Paco or Brenda, and like just getting to put words in their words in their mouths. It's not a spoiler because it's been announced, but Starfire is a part of the book, and like she's got this catchphrase X Hall that she says. It's like her gasp. And I was like, I get to write that in a script. You know what I mean?
Well, getting to the script and getting to the book, there's a couple of questions I have to ask, right?
Oh, sure.
So one, awesome to have a cameo in there of a big guy with a big S on his chest, which is awesome. How does Superman take his elote is what I want to know. Does he put, lemon on it, chile? Like what kind of elote does he eat is what I want to know.
Oh god, I think he likes it spicy. I'm probably the lemon guy. I'm like I'm a little soft on that, but like definitely I'm like Superman stuffing his face. That's the first thing he does when he goes to the Reyes house because the food's better.
I absolutely love that. I have never seen Superman get introduced eating, and I immediately was just like, oh, that's the Brad Pitt Superman, because Brad Pitt is literally always eating when he's on.
Oh yeah,
he's always eating, and I was like, oh, this is Brad Pitt's Superman. That made a lot of sense.
Yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, "Oh man, this is dope." I was like, this is." I turned to my wife and I told her, I was like, "This is awesome," and then immediately after that, he talks about his wife and how she's the best thing in the world, but she can't cook to save her life. And my wife, felt really attacked about that, Josh. So I just wanted to let you know. But it's a great like introduction, and it's just awesome to see it. It's awesome to see the Spanish in there as well, which I wanted to thank you for because it's different, and it's something that from a representation standpoint and from me and my son getting to read. I asked Jake, hey, did you read the Spanish part? And he's like, I kind of,
I really genuinely enjoyed that there was Spanish in it. To me, that's like everyday life. You walk into the grocery store or something like that, and there are people surrounding you, and they're speaking languages that you don't speak, and they're not subtitled. I don't know what but there was this moment of me reading and not being bilingual, like just, all right, I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on. Looking at the images, the art was gorgeous in this book, by the way, and
Oh yeah,
it was,
Adrian killed it.
yeah, oh, very much so. And in those portions where they were speaking Spanish, there was something that felt more intimate about it as well between the characters. Suddenly, it felt like, oh, that's a conversation for them. I'm witnessing, but I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and like I definitely recommend like getting out your like Google Translate app, and like that kind of helps you. But like for us, it was really important to kind of like capture his life authentically, and like people speak Spanish in his life. He lives in a bilingual household, and like uh, the first Blue Beetle comic they used, they made up a special language for the Reach, and so they did a lot of like coded messages and stuff, and they like you can kind of translate and get some plot secrets that way. And we're not really doing that. Like the plot's not going to hinge on anything you can read in Spanish, but like it's a lot of character moments and a lot of the supporting cast and even Jaime, like they're going to have conversations in Spanish, and like it's just no big deal. And like people, I don't think there's going to be like kind of like a bite back about it, but obviously I don't know what the reaction is. I hope people, like you said, I hope people, the people who it's for, appreciate it. And it just like that's the fun of this book. Like we have Reach language, we have Spanish, we have everything under the sun.
Yeah, that's a good segue to two other questions I have. One, Spanglish. Is Spanglish something that you're going to put in, or you've put in, or you've thought about putting in there? And for those of you that don't know what Spanglish is a mix of English and Spanish that is kind of, for newer generations of, Hispanic people that speak Spanish, and at the very least in Texas, but I'm sure everywhere else, kind of mix the languages to kind of create a new language, I guess, is what's going on. Is that something that you thought about writing into the book?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because like, in a lot of his like appearances, like in comic or in video games or like TV shows, like they really kind of lean on the Spanglish of it. But I think sometimes it can be, I don't know, sometimes it comes across as a little like forced or weird. And so like trying to get it right is really hard. We're definitely like leaning in that direction as we go forward. I'm getting a little more comfortable with the translation team and trying to figure out how to make it feel real. But like, yeah, we're kind of mixing Spanish and English, especially in like, I don't know, it's fun to write a fight scene in Spanish. And I want to like make sure that people understand what's happening, even if they don't read Spanish too. So like, yeah, we're definitely going to try to like mix and match.
Awesome. And then the part of that you mentioned about the pushback, right? Like, I feel like you're no stranger to some controversies, right? Like,
oh, sure.
Like Aaron Fisher, like that comes to mind to me. How do you like, I guess, deal with that, or does that even cross your mind or you're just making your story and then whatever blowback, if there is any, happens, like you're just gonna do your story?
Yeah, I'm not trying to troll anyone, but like it's so funny because like they do Star Trek comics, and like they'll do a Star Trek comic that's entirely in Klingon and no one will blink. There's like, yep, that's just the way it is. I put a few lines of Spanish in a Blue Beetle comic, someone's going to get upset.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know what that's about, but like, I just try to tell the right story, whether it be like, I'm a gay Latino. So whether I'm speaking to one community or another or both, it's like, I just want to get it right. And like, I try to write a book that is for everyone, but also that means, including and like respecting everyone too. And so like, that's always the challenge. The controversy of it, like the Aaron Fisher thing. For those who don't know, I wrote a character with Marvel Comics called Aaron Fisher. He's the gay Captain America, basically. He's a gay runaway who picks up the shield. And that was like a big media thing. I guess it was a slow news day, but it was on The Daily Show. It was on TMZ. Like it was everywhere for some reason. And like that stressed me out because it's just the usual people being like, "You made Captain America gay," and it's like, yes, I
did. And for me, I mean, like, again, this is just one person's, opinion and thought process, but I welcome it, man. I love it. Like I've told Jake, we've had so many years of these types of stories or certain types of stories. Like I want to see new stuff. I want to see different stuff. I want to see how different people react to different things and, what greatness they can do in, as the character, right? Like, so I love like Kamala Khan. I love America Chavez. All of that. Like, it's new and it's different, and that's what I want. So the other people that are more, set in this is the character, or just name them different, but it's not. That's not. I don't think that's the answer either. I think that this is better for me. The mantle, and it passes to different types of people, and they react differently to the mantle. So I really applaud you for that, man. I thought that was really cool, and it's just always curious to me how someone that writes this or creates this type of character, or a type of character, or whatever, that has controversy associated with it, how they deal with it, because it sucks, man. It sucks. You're writing just cool stories, and because of whatever's going on, I guess, culturally or in our society, it gets looked at as, oh, you wrote the gay Captain America, but there's more to it than that,
Yeah, I hope that people really I hope they get what I'm trying to do with Aaron Fisher. He's a runaway, and we got a really positive response from a lot of people who have suffered from homelessness in their lives, or been a runaway themselves, and they really resonated with the character, and we're going to get to do some stuff with him in the future again, which I'm excited about. But that's kind of a breaking news, but you keep it under your hats.
Oh, nice.
But I'm not trying to troll anyone. I'm just trying to tell the best stories I can and pull from my experiences. And if that pisses someone off, I'm sorry.
Well, what I never understood was are we running out of digital storage space? How is there not enough room in the world to have the different variations that, with Captain America, Steve Rogers is great. I love Steve Rogers. But I also love when the characters and the mantle moves in different directions. And it's not as if Steve Rogers doesn't continue to have stories either.
We didn't take away Steve's shield or whatever. Steve's always going to be there. Sam's always going to be there. But this is the whole point of the United States of Captain America miniseries that he debuted in.
Yeah.
Chris Cantwell and Dale Englisham really wanted to show what does the idea of Captain America mean today, and who would kind of be today's Steve Rogers. And so whether it be a Black woman who lives on the East Coast, whether it be a Filipina college student, whether it be a gay runaway, those were all interesting creative choices, and they all did get a little bit of blowback. We're not going to deny that. But I think that ultimately we reached the people who needed these stories.
Oh, absolutely. You said something earlier that I really wanted to comment on, where you had mentioned you were trying to make stories for everyone. However, with that said, I would never begrudge an artist or a writer who came and said, no, I wanted to make mine. I wanted to make my character, because it's, you can make one for everybody, but realistically, I still want to see what is it when you are as selfish as you want to be with the character, right? What do we get out? What do we get? Because it could be the most incredible thing ever, because if you're too busy pleasing everybody. So do you write in both? I know you never want to piss anybody off. That's never you're not going into it with that. Do you have to tell yourself to be selfish and to get what you want out of your character?
Yeah, I think that I take this I guess the responsibility of it, I take it seriously, and these characters mean so much to me. They mean so much to the readers, and I just want to get that right. And but at the same time, I want to have my kind of fun too. We're definitely using some of my favorite characters. We're using kind of following some story arcs that I'm really excited about, and even DC's so great because it has all these nooks and crannies of continuity and old characters and old ideas, and getting to dust off some of these kind of older concepts. There's a Hawkman villain called Fadeaway Man, just kind of an old dude in a cloak, and he was cool. He was cool for his time, but we're introducing Fadeaway Man's grandchild and just going by Fadeaway now, and that's in the first issue of Blue Beetle, and for me, that legacy is so important to the character, and I really wanted to capture that, and that's my selfishness, is I want contributing to these legacies is the thing that gets me really excited about being with DC.
Nice. I mean, and you mentioned Fadeaway in there in the response, and in the first issue, he comes out and there's unresolved. He didn't beat him, basically, right? Jaime's having trouble, or Jaime, kind of doubting himself or the confidence there. And then you have Superman come in and kind of puts him on the sidelines, right? Because he's trying to figure out what's going on, and then you leave off with a cliffhanger. So in this, and also too, there's a footnote on there, and I don't know if Jake caught it. There's a footnote about the big event coming in January, and so what's it called? Lazarus. Is it Lazarus?
Lazarus Planet?
Lazarus Planet. Yeah, Lazarus Planet. So in the continuity of DC, this is after the Dark Crisis, right? Dark Crisis.
Yeah, we're spinning out of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths.
On Infinite Earths, and right before the Lazarus Planet is what we're gonna see happen, right? That's kind of what we're doing. So I guess the question that I have for you, based on the continuity and what's going on with it, is this is a story where Jaime is going to find himself and where he fits in the DC universe going forward. Is that what we can look forward to?
Yeah, that's the master plan. I think by the end of it, you'll understand like where he sits in the DC universe and like what his little corner and what his territory is.
Nice. I mean, I'm excited about that because I want more Blue Beetle. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, he's just at a different point in his life, and like he's been in El Paso for so long. I think we've gotten some of the best Blue Beetle stories absolutely have come out of that setting. And like, it's not a small town, but it's like, it's kind of a suburb. And like when you graduate from high school, you figure out what's next. Like the next thing for him is maybe life in the cities for him, or maybe that's not going to work out either. But like, there's a lot of questions about what Jaime wants from his life. And like, I can definitely relate. I don't know if anyone else can relate, but like, coming out of high school, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I wanted to do immediately. I wanted to do comics. I didn't have a clue how to do that. And so like, I was just kind of aimless for a long time. And like, I'm not trying to like set Jaime up for a fall, but I think that makes him relatable. I think this is somewhere we can build from. And like over the series, he's going to kind of like come to terms with like who he is and what he wants from life.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot right now, like with what college is and what it isn't. And there's a lot of, questions about that. And I'm saying from me, I have a 14-year-old, 13-year-old. So, one's in high school, one's getting up there, and just seeing what you can do in this life. Right. So I agree with you. Like, I didn't have a plan coming out of high school either. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Some stuff got put in front of me and I kind of ran with it. Right. In the financial industry, which was great for a while, but that's not really what I wanted to do. It just happened to me. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to resonate with a ton of people, and that's why I'm really excited about it. That's why I told Jake, man, this is pretty awesome. I'm really excited about the Blue Beetle going forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting things. Very much a lot of exciting things. I think that the vulnerability, I love the contradiction within the character, starting the issue off with lines like "I've got this under control," where the character seems super confident and in for lack of a better term, bulletproof. Right, the character is super ready to go, and he's under control. He's got it. And then to where the issue ends, so much vulnerability and so much uncertainty, and it really just does a wonderful job of setting up what's to come. I mean, it makes you want to read what's next, and I thought that was extremely effective. I think that individuals, readers are out there are going to be wanting the next issue to come right away, and so well done to you. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you, man. Like Adrian, the artist, and Will Quintana, the colorist, and even our letter, Lucas Catoni, like we all worked really hard to kind of capture the emotions that we wanted onto the page. And like I thought, Adrian lives in Spain, and so like his post high school college experience was way different than mine, and like it's just interesting how we could find like a common emotional core to like tell that story. And like we want to have a lot of fun along the way too. It's not all heavy and out of high school drama, but it's still a lot of fun superhero action too. So trying to get that balance right is always that's the trick.
Yeah, and Jake mentioned too, like, and we've talked about this. The art is phenomenal. Like I really like the art. And what Jake and I were talking about, and I guess our listeners will know, is we've been kind of on an indie run for the past couple of weeks as far as like the Incal, which is humanoids and the Psychoverse and that style of art, and even the editor Jake told us that it's the colors were built for the European market, right? Because that's kind of where their bread and butter is. But this is superhero. This is American market, but at the same time, it is distinctive and it's pretty cool. It's different, and it's just awesome. Like, I really like the art in this book.
Yeah, it's even though he's from Spain, you can see a lot of kind of manga influences, I think, but also there's that like his lines are so clean and it's just so kinetic, and like he captures it beautifully, and like the Beetle suit, like he like gives it like he's able to bring a lot of emotion out of sometimes it's hard because it's like just a mask, right? But like he totally gets it, and like he's able to like get so much emotion and expression out of Jaime.
Yeah, the artwork, the expressions, I was talking to Jesus earlier, I said something along the lines of, in comparison to what we've been reading so much of, it really had this pop culture feel. Like, it really just felt like it was on the cutting edge pop culture. Like, stylistically, it just felt loud, but I don't know, engrossing, right? Like, I don't know how else to put it, where sometimes you read like an indie comic, which, there are some indie comics like I just fall into and don't come out of, which is amazing. But that artwork it'll be super dark, or it won't be quite as vibrant. And so anyway, something about this was a super nice change of pace for some of the things that we have been reading, but at the same time, equally as like astonishing. Right. When you go from a couple of weeks ago, we were reading a death machine that was cutting people's heads off, and like going from that to this, the superheroes, it's just such a nice, I not palate cleanse, but it was just different and great.
Yeah, I hope it feels like a breath of fresh air, and like there's definitely a place for kind of like that grittier storytelling. And we definitely like don't shy away from a little bit of that in Blue Beetle, but like I want a fun, fast-paced book. I don't want to get too way down. I want people to be excited to read it and look forward to the next one. I want it to kind of bounce along. And like I wanted to like kind of mimic not exactly, but like be inspired from like the original Blue Beetle run, the John Rogers and Keith Giffen one. Because that just like that felt like the best Spider-Man without it being Spider-Man, I think we're ready for that.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a compliment or not. Is it a compliment if I say this feels like a kind of Spider-Man-y?
I mean, he's the biggest character of them all, right? So like, I take it as a compliment because Blue Beetle's going to be the biggest one of them all.
I wanted you to say it first. I didn't want to be the one to say it and then suddenly insult you unintentionally.
No, I read a lot of like Spider-Man in college comics, and I think that's actually one of his better eras. And so I was like, what happens for Peter Parker? Like, how did that transition go? And for him, he had like a very straight, narrow focus because he's like the brilliant scientist, right? So like going to science ESU like made a lot of sense for him. But like for Jaime, like what does he want to do? Like one of the classic Blue Beetle stories is where Jaime decides he wants to become a dentist, and like we're going to touch on that too, but all things in time.
Well, I have, and Jesus, you can certainly ask one if you have a final one, but I have one final question myself, and that's regarding the spotlight at the end of the book. I thought it was for me personally. And for, like, I think my son, who's never read something like this, hasn't read the character before. I thought it was really informative. It was really neat and cool. And it also gave you hints and things like where it could be going a little bit. I thought that was interesting. Is that going to be in every issue? Are you going to do spotlights, or is it just this one?
I think it's just this one for now. I know DC is like figuring out how they want to like kind of filter that information out to people, get readers excited about issues 2 and 3 and beyond. But I thought the team who put that together was like, it captures the first issue so well. And I think that like, that's going to make people really excited about what's coming.
Like for me, like I'm already in, right? Like you have me, I'm going to read all issues. My son's going to read all these issues. So I'm just trying to look at it as well too. Like, how can we get more people in the spotlight? Is a way to do it. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, DC has been like so supportive of the book. You know, they're doing the book in Spanish for the first issue. I'm not sure what the plans are beyond that as of this recording, but you know, eventually the whole thing will be collected and available in Spanish, and that's like a big deal for DC. They don't do a lot of these like same day uh, bilingual releases, and so like that's really exciting, and that's like a big. I hope we are able to get people to a comic shop who maybe have never been before.
I love that. That is awesome.
No, and we've got some
Multiples.
like amazing covers. Coley Hamner came back and did a really kind of iconic Blue Beetle piece because it's his baby, right? And so like we've got Raphael Albuquerque, another iconic. He did all the
Oh,
covers
Oh, yep.
way
We
back
talked to
when.
Raphael. He's
And
great.
yeah, we're doing and David Marquez has another variant for the first issue, and like looking down the list of like who we've got for these each issue and each of the variant covers, like we just keep one upping ourselves, honestly.
Ooh, real quick question. I don't know if you can divulge or not, and maybe if you can cut this out if you can or what have you. But are you introducing any new characters in this series?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question because you know, you read the first issue, you look at the last page. We've got our Yellow Beetle who goes by Dynastus, kind of a new maybe friend, maybe foe for Jaime. And beyond that, we are introduced a bunch of new characters in issue 2. We've got a new addition to a supporting cast, some family members we've never met before, and there's one character in particular I can only tease, but they are going to be a huge part of Blue Beetle and Jaime's life going forward. And like this is like, you know, get on the train because like this one's going to be around for a while.
Oh, nice.
Is that what
Nice.
book is that?
Issue 2 is going to be
Is that when that character is introduced?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There'll be an issue 2, and we've got a couple new characters and surprises throughout the run.
There you go, collectors.
There you go.
There you
out
go.
there. That's speculation right there. That's not even speculation. That's like
Oh man, that was
guaranteed.
speculation. Dang it. We should have saved that question, Jake.
Well, Josh, thank you very much for sharing that much. But we are not done talking to you just yet because every episode, every time we talk to somebody, we have to ask you for your
Grail tale.
Grail tale.
Grail tale. Grail tale. Grail tale.
the Grail tale. We would love to know a collectible or a book or something, you know, a collectible of yours that you just hold above everything else. And kind of what's the story behind it? Why does it mean so much to you?
Oh gosh. Okay, I've got a couple weird ones. Can I pull something off my wall real quick?
Yeah, of
Hold on a
course.
second. Okay, so I have this animation cell from the Super Mario World cartoon from the 90s. And I've got the certificate of authenticity on the back. I don't know if you guys can see, it's a little blurry, but it's a picture of what looks like Yoshi making out with Luigi. And so it's a canonical, anyway, it is the dumbest thing I own, but I found it at one of those convention bins for like $20. I was like, I need to own this forever. Like this is a part of my life. So that's like special to me. Of like real like of comic stuff, I've got this Alex Ross print from from when I was graduating high school of the Uncanny X-Men, and it's signed by Dave Cockrum, and it's one of my like prized possessions. I've taken it with me. I moved to New York. I took it with me to New York. I brought it back from New York. Like it's you know, it's ride or die for this framed Alex Ross print.
And always prominently displayed, I suppose.
Oh, always a place of honor in my home.
And do you mind expanding what about that? Is it the X-Men? Is it Ross's work? What about it makes it worth, you know, so much to you?
Oh gosh, I was obsessed with. I'm still a little low-key obsessed with Alex Ross's art, but like, you know, Kingdom Come was really my reintroduction to DC. I read that around the same time I read Batman: The Dark Knight Returns and Long Halloween and all these like iconic works that like are kind of people's entry points back into the DC universe. But like Kingdom Come, like the story of it, the way that it played with legacy and kind of played with like this flash forward of like kind of this dark future for the characters. I'd never thought of anything like that. But like, so that kind of got me into Alex Ross's art. And then I grew up with the 90s X-Men animated series like everyone else. And so, these are my X-Men's they're my guys. And so like this is my favorite lineup, I think. It's just like the classic like Storm, Phoenix, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Cyclops, even Banshee. Like I love that like Banshee's there? Okay. But he's OG. He's been there from the beginning. He deserves to be on this beautifully painted by Alex Ross.
Nice. And then it was already signed by Dave Cockrum.
Yeah, it's one of those limited prints, but I think it's Dave Cockrum's pencils, and I think Alex Ross painted over those.
That's what it is, man. That's awesome. And I just want to get back to Animation Cell too. So the Animation Cell, you said you got it at a convention. Do you remember?
Yeah, I got it at San Diego Comic-Con years ago, maybe 7 years ago. But I just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Because usually at these like animation bins, I'm sure you guys like your collectors, they go through Animation Cell bins, and it's like someone's left leg. You know what I mean? It's like it's never anything very good at this point. But like I found this, and I was like, this is so weird. Like I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, you felt like you found gold, right? You're like, wait a second, this is not somebody's left index finger here. This is actual Yoshi. Like. So you're right. There's slim pickings out there with these Animation Cells, especially at conventions. But did you have that in mind going up there? You just, hey, I want an Animation Cell, or is that something you like to collect, or you just thought it was?
No, I don't have a lot of animation. That's actually the only one I think I own. I would love like a Simpsons Animation Cell. That would be like my holy grail. I've seen every episode, like literally every episode. Oh. And so like that'd be amazing to have like an Animation Cell from like one of my favorite episodes. But like, what do I collect? I collect Star Wars miniatures from this old Wizards of the Coast Star Wars mini game that they had. I have like maybe like 400 of these things. I collect maybe I just like small figurines because I have amiibos too. I have like 60 Nintendo amiibos and trading card games. There's this old Versus system, if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
Upper Deck made it.
Yeah.
And so it's a Marvel versus DC card game. It's just Marvel now, and the rules have changed a little bit. But I play the original one. And so like I've just bought a bunch of old booster boxes on eBay. Like that's the level of like I'm buying like a 15-year-old dead card game because I still need the fix.
Wait a minute. I feel like, did you preface this by saying you weren't much of a collector?
I know I did. I was like, I don't collect anything. And I was like, well, actually, no.
I have my storage unit with all these collectibles that I have. Okay, so real quick too, on those two things you mentioned, the miniatures, is there any like, or in the amiibos too, is there any like difficult ones to get or higher price ones than other ones?
Yeah, there's like a whole market for these amiibos, and like I say I'm not a collector because I take them out of their packaging, right? Like they're not for resale. I use them for like D&D miniatures and like stuff like that. And so like there's like I think it's a gold Mario. I think he might be the rarest one. And I feel so stupid because I was at a Toys R Us years ago and I saw it on display and I was like, I don't know. I don't really have $12 right now to throw around. And like, if I had held on to it, I could have sold it for like, whatever, hundreds of dollars at this point. That's like the tough one. And like Nintendo's like, these amiibos sell out so quickly too. Like anything else, you have to pre-order it or you're not going to get it.
That's crazy. But that's awesome. Yeah. That's collectors for you. That's what.
Yeah. And then the card game too is a card game that you go back and buy a 15-year-old card game. Is there any like special cards or anything that are like rare or that you don't have yet that you want to get?
Some of these sets are so hard to get because like it really comes. You can tell like what a quote unquote like good set of like cards is, like an expansion pack, because like if it's still available, that means they're not that good. Like, anything X-Men, hundreds of dollars to get a booster box. Anything Marvel is like a little more expensive than DC generally, but DC has some of the most powerful cards. That's kind of the twist.
That's interesting.
Well, I've got one last question regarding what you had said earlier. Alex Ross, have you met or had any opportunity of working with him in any way?
No, I wish. I've been really spoiled with like the cover artists of like books I've been a part of. Like the first Marvel book I did had a cover by Alan Davis for the War of the Realms tie-in, and that was like, holy crap! Like this is like the legend, right? And so like I had that, and then like obviously like Blue Beetle, we're getting people like Coley or Rafael Albuquerque. That was a really big one. I might still have it. I have an unused cover sketch that Rafael did for issue 7 of the original Blue Beetle run, and I had it in my bulletin board for years and years and years. And that was always like, that's I don't know. That's why Blue Beetle's always been my guy, because I'd always look up to him at my desk and I'd be like, hey. Now I have this picture of Mr. Sinister, so I don't know what that means about me. But
You change sides.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's an awesome one.
So you could say though that working with Ross would be a personal grail tale of like that you're still working on, right?
Yeah, and I don't think he's ever done a Blue Beetle drawing or done a comic with him either. So that'd be a really interesting.
He's waiting for somebody to ask him, Josh.
Yeah.
He's waiting. I know he's waiting. Could I commission? I have $50,000. Can you draw Blue Beetle for me?
He's sitting by his phone right now, waiting for you to call him on this.
Just put it as an expense to DC, and then they'll take care of it. They're good.
Exactly.
They're good for it.
They are good for it. Well, who else? My wish list right now is I'm trying to get Phil Jimenez on something. It's hard because he just won the Eisner, and it would be even hard anyways because he's one of the most talented artists who's ever done it. But I'm like, you have to do Blue Beetle and you have to do Starfire.
Yeah. So you don't have. I'm not saying you don't have. Like, I'm asking. Like, do you have say in that? Like, can you ask your editor at DC or somebody there and say, "Hey, is this a possibility?" Or how does that work?
I gave like my wish list kind of coming into it, and like, editors always have the final call, and also there's like a lot of like, they want to get the right artist for the right book, and they want to get an artist who like really excites retailers and collectors and like readers, and so like that's kind of the balance. I think that honestly, the all-stars have been coming around and doing this Blue Beetle book. Joe Quinones is doing a cover. I don't think I've even seen the whole thing yet. But it's like I saw like Jaime's eyeball or whatever, and I was like, oh my God. Like
All right, well, cool. Well, I'm obviously looking forward to a lot of that artwork, but I just had to ask when it came to Ross if you had worked with them before. But that is still one of the coolest parts. It feels like, obviously, I'm not a writer, but if I was, like, I don't know. I think I'd still geek out every time one of the artists I love would want to work or do a cover or something like that. That's still got to be a thrill.
Oh yeah, and it's such a thrill, and like to see it on the shop and like with my name on it attached to like a David Marquez cover or something. It's like how did this happen? Like,
what's the phrase? Jesus, never looked a gift horse in the mouth, right?
That's right, and also hard work pays off. So,
well, that's
also
yeah. I should have started with that. I should have led with Josh. You deserve it, but also you never look a gift horse in the mouth.
It's Nebraskaism is what it is.
Yeah.
Josh. Don't worry about him.
Well, everybody, that is going to lead us to our final segment of the day. Speculation. The speculation segment. That one is always a little creepy because speculation can get scary for some people. Don't worry, everybody. Don't be scared. Nothing can hurt you here. And we've got some pretty awesome speculation coming up here. Jesus, I already know what you're going to say, but I want you to lead off because I think you might actually win this week. I think you might have the best one.
All right. Well, since this is a podcast and people can't see me, I am sitting next to 4 Infinite Crisis books from 2006. They're all Jaime Reyes and Blue Beetle. Like I mentioned, it's a big deal here in our household. So I have a 9.6 Infinite Crisis number 5, a 9.2 Infinite Crisis number 5, a Raw number 5, and a Raw number 3. So why are those important? I've talked about these before. I told you to pick them up when they were $5, $10, even $15 books. I believe I told you to pick them up. These are going to be going up. Obviously, there's a new series coming out with Josh here writing on it, and there's also a movie coming out next year that's going to push these books up higher. You still have time to get in on these before the movie comes out. So Infinite Crisis number 5 is the first appearance of Jaime Reyes as the Blue Beetle. There's 2 covers. There's a Jim Lee cover, which is with Blue Beetle on the front cover, and it has like a red background. And then there's a George Perez cover with 2 Supermans fighting, which is an awesome cover as well. There's actually a third cover that I don't have that I really want to get, which is the sketch cover of the Perez artwork. I have not found it. I have not found it in the wild. I want to find it in the wild. I've gone to, I don't know, 10, 15 LCSs looking for it. And I can't find it. And then Infinite Crisis #3 is the first appearance of Jaime Reyes, not as a Blue Beetle, just Jaime Reyes in DC. That book is also undervalued in my opinion as well. And it has a bunch of gorgeous covers as well. This one is with Wonder Woman. I showed it to Jake. It's just
I love that cover with all the Omax.
Yeah, it's just an awesome cover. And again, undervalued, man. This book right now, #3 right now, I think is a $10 book. You can find it for under $10. #5 is creeping up. Raw, you're finding it for anywhere between $25 and $40, depending on the condition. 9.8s are, I think, selling for around $280, $300. Wow. And I mean, this is a superhero that has a lot, going on in the DC universe. So I anticipate it'll be, and like we said, like Josh said, it's Spider-Man kind of adjacent. So this character has a lot of legs to me. That's why I have a lot of these. I have more that I didn't bring out, but these are just the ones I wanted to showcase. So that's my pick for speculation for this week.
I think that's pretty awesome. And as you were speaking about this character having legs, I would say this character has at least 6 legs.
But I'm
Hey, come on. You're right. All right. Thank you for sharing that. That is actually, I really do like that one. Josh, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to stay on the Blue Beetle train. I'm going to selfishly plug my own book, but I think that the graduation day, I think the Spanish issue is going to be kind of a rarity. I think people should probably get on that. I think it's a big piece of history for DC, and I think people are going to be looking at that in the future. But we're also doing a Papel Picado cover. So it's a special paper cutout for those that don't know. It's going to have the scarab on it. It's beautiful. Ooh. And it's also going to come with a holographic cover of the first issue, the main Adrian Gutierrez cover too. So I definitely pick both of those up if you're kind of in a collector's mindset. I'm going to buy a bunch of the Papel Picado ones because I want to string them up in my room. I'm crazy like that.
All those.
I really am. Again, I just take everything out of the collector's case, and it's like it's not worthless, but it's exciting to me.
Oh, hey, they're yours. Once you buy them, you can do whatever you want.
Oh yeah, I gotta play with my toys.
Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly. Nice. I completely agree with you on that. I think that is a really good speculation. That's certainly a book that I'm going to also pick up. Genuinely, just because, like you said, it is a landmark book for DC. Speaking of DC, so my speculation is also a DC book. This is one that I recently picked up. I thought about using it for the recent pickup segment, but of course we were talking to you, so Blue Beetle was going to take that mark. But this is, and I'm holding it here. This is Superman versus Muhammad Ali. So this is, DC all new collector's edition. I think the official number, if you're looking at, if you want to Google it or whatever, is C56 Treasury Edition. So Jesus and I were on a YouTube channel last night that we will generally be on. It's our good friend Paul Cook, Sector 2615, I think is the official YouTube channel. But we're on there maybe once a month, once every other month. We play a nice game. It's called Guess That Key, where you bring a comic book and the other guests on the show, they ask yes or no questions to see if they can guess your book. And I got a little offended because somebody on the live stream said that book doesn't count. It's a treasure. It's not a real comic book. And I'm here to tell everybody listening, the Treasury Edition is a damn comic book. You can read this the same as a comic book just because it doesn't fit the size. Damn it. But these things I think are really undervalued. Now, this one that I got came out in 1978, and DC did a whole run. There were a lot of crossovers. DC and Spider-Man. I believe there's a Batman crossover one as well, although I'm not as familiar with that one. That being said, it's gorgeous. This is a Neil Adams cover, and this cover alone is worth getting it because it's a big fight scene with Muhammad Ali and Spider-Man or Superman, excuse me. and the crowd, it's a wraparound cover, and everybody in the crowd is actually a celebrity from 1978. And so there's a key on the inside of the front cover that tells you can, you look up the adjacent, the number, and then it will give you the corresponding name. It'll keep you busy for hours. So this is not only is it genuinely a comic book. Anybody who thinks that just because it's a bigger size that it's not a comic book, you can. I don't know. I've got words for you. I'm not going to say them on here, but you can go somewhere else. But not only is it a comic book, I think that they are very undervalued. And this is Muhammad Ali's first appearance. Might be his only appearance in a comic book. I'm not 100% on that, but I know it's his first appearance.
It's probably his first appearance, but there's been others, I think. And yeah, I remember seeing him in some stuff in the 90s, I believe. But it's just interesting, right? Like the equivalent nowadays, I guess, is like the Fortnite crossover stuff, right? Because you're not seeing them crossover with a lot of like athletes or boxers or stuff like that. Like the last one I think I talked about was LeBron James, and that was in 2007 or something, 2006, somewhere around right when he came.
You mean the Space Jam guy?
Do you guys know FaZe Clan? They're an esports team.
Oh, yeah.
They did a crossover with Batman this year, which I actually wrote. One of the goofiest things I've ever written, but I'm proud of it. So like DC's still crossing things over. It just kind of from different angles you would.
That's it. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like the Fortnite, the FaZe Clan stuff. It's a different type, right? Like it's not going to be like, I don't know, Canelo, right? It's not going to be Tyson Fury. I mean, it could be, that'd be great too as well, right? But it's not the same thing as it was when they crossed over with Muhammad Ali, right? So it's something different now, which is fine. Like that's the precursor to it. And I think that's a great spec book because I've been wanting that book for a long time, man. I just think it's so cool. Like seeing Superman fight Muhammad Ali, like, come on.
Yeah, I've seen that cover my whole life. I think we all have. And like, I've never seen the back cover and I had no idea that they were all celebrities. It's like, that's like crazy that like a book that I've read like before, like there's a whole new element to it.
Yeah. Well, the other cool thing about that was that the artist, well, I guess Neil Adams, right, drew them. And if they couldn't get clearance, he just like did a mustache on them or some glasses or something. So it wouldn't be.
Yes. So apparently there's John Wayne on this cover somewhere. I haven't found him yet. John Wayne's on here and he has a mustache. So I've got to find
because he clearance. He wouldn't clear it. That's why.
So there's a lot of fun to be had with this book, and I should not be the only person having it. So I'm speculating on that book that other people need to go out and find. But that's going to do it for speculation. And you know what? This was so close of a contest for speculation this week, but I'm still going to have to give it to myself. I think I won. So congratulations to me. Jesus, really valiant effort, really great job. And Josh, of course, you were such a close second. In fact, we could have almost split the two-way tie for first. But I think I still won. So that being said, we have come to the end of this episode. And Josh, it was a lot of fun. Genuinely, thank you very much for joining us. And thanks for sharing your book because it really was such a breath of fresh air for me personally. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm always happy to talk about Jaime. I hope people pick up the rest of the miniseries, and fingers crossed that we'll be seeing a lot more of him in the future. I'm sure we will. There's a movie coming out next year, after all.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you, and everybody out there listening. Of course, go to your LCS. Go pick up the latest copy of Blue Beetle Graduation Day. You are not going to regret it. It is a lot of fun. And pick up the whole series, pick up the whole run. And Josh, we hope we see you again in the future with whatever you're doing next, which I know you can't say, but please let us know.
Yeah, anytime, guys.
Awesome. Where can they find you at online, Josh?
Oh, yeah. So you can find me on social media. I'm mostly on Twitter, but there might not be Twitter by the time this airs. So at Lost, L-O-S-T, his, H-I-S, Keys, K-E-Y-S, man, Lost His Keys, man. There's another Josh Trujillo who has my name, so he beat me to the punch. So I'm Lost His Keys, man.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody out there for listening. Have a good week. And so, Josh, we'd like to make a special request to all of our listeners out there. Josh, we were talking to you earlier, and you had mentioned just how much you're putting behind this, how many books you're buying yourself, of course, on this. We'd like to challenge our listeners. We're going to set the goal of 15,000 copies of. So everybody go out and what is there, like 100 of you? Everybody has to buy 1,500. I don't know. What's the math on that, Zeus?
Yeah, something like that.
Just keep buying. That's the answer.
Anytime you see this book, just buy it. Just pick it up.